Hi class, I did my case exploration paper on NFL Concussion Scandal. Football, as we call it here in America, is probably the most loved sport, more likely because it is rough. Head injuries, including concussions, are part of the game. Concussions are a subject of deep concern. The study into the concussions comes about after one former NFL player died in 2002. His name was Mike Webster of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The study done on Mike Webster found in his autopsy that he, at the age of 50, had a brain disease known as chronic traumatic encephalopathy. This disease was caused from continuous head trauma, also known as concussions. A concussion is not a bruise to the brain caused by hitting a hard surface, as most would think. Swelling and bleeding in the brain is not usually present following a concussion, so it's hard to recognize. The brain injury usually happens when the head is either accelerated swiftly and then stopped, or is spun quickly. This violent jolting caused the brain to flood with substances numbing certain receptors connected to learning and memory. Symptoms of a concussion often include confusion, blurred vision, memory loss, nausea, and sometimes unconsciousness. Doctors say that after the initial concussion, one is 4 times more likely to suffer another concussion. Also, the more concussions, the longer the rehabilitation period following the injury. So you have one concussion, it's harder to get. The more you get, the easier these concussions are, and the longer your rehab time. The scandal going on in the NFL when it comes to concussions is the league was very well informed of the concussions and the implications following them and chose to do nothing about it. And they were in total denial of the severity of the issue. 4,500 former NFL players joined a lawsuit against the NFL for concussion-related issues. This lawsuit never made it to court because the NFL settled out of court for $765 million in August of 2014. The NFL has never divulged knowledge of the implication of the concussions, but since the death of Mike Webster, the NFL has decided to add additional precautions to help current NFL players from receiving concussions. I got one thing to show you. This is a Riedel helmet. It's a 360. It's supposed to prevent concussions. It can prevent hard surfaces from hitting it, but inside, it can't help your brain from moving inside your skull. And this helmet is for 2014, and you have to get it refurbished every year. It's very important. You don't want a concussion. In 2009, the NFL approved a course of action asserting that players must sit out for at least one game after a concussion. They must go through numerous tests before returning to the playing field. Historically, players expose themselves to great danger since doctors and coaches didn't give emphasis to the hazards of concussions or the appropriate safeguards. The lawsuit and deaths of players forced the NFL to finally do the right thing in enacting the policy to look after players and be sure that they can do the best job possible to prevent concussions. Prior to 2009, NFL concussion policy and the judgments made by doctors were treated more like recommendations. The policy increased their power. Now doctors make the ultimate choice by pulling players from the game. They no longer have to surrender to the wants of the player to ensure playing that the player is not playing with any injury, especially to the head. If a player doesn't pass the test run by the team of doctors to check if the symptoms have cleared, they will not be allowed to play. And it is in the best interest of the player for their long-term health. In 2010, the NFL and the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, which is what they consider after you have multiple concussions, it's a disease, a brain disease, that can cause death and memory loss and many other things. The federal government agency, the CDC, and the NFL got together to make awareness flyers. These flyers were posted in NFL locker rooms during the 2010 football season. The poster was to make players aware of how to recognize the signs of a concussion by the symptoms and take time out to recover if a concussion occurs. The poster is a result of a joint effort between the NFL, the NFL Player Association, the CDC, Professional Football Athletic Trainers Association, and the NFL Physicians Society. This definitely is a step in the right direction for the NFL and how it cares for its players. Congressmen got together for a House Judiciary Committee meeting on October 28th of 2010 in Washington, D.C., along with retired NFL player Kyle Turley, who is an advocate for concussions and concussion recognition in the NFL. The NFL Dr. Ira Kassan, executives from two helmet manufacturers, Riddell, the helmet I showed you, and Schutt. Also representatives of the NCAA and youth football organizations, probably like Pop Warner. Dr. Ira Kassan was a co-chairman for the NFL on head injuries. Dr. Ira Kassan was a neurologist as well as a co-chairman for the NFL for head injuries, but also a neurologist. He denies that the death and the chronic traumatic encephalopathy found in dead NFL players was caused by concussions and denies any NFL involvement in any of these cases. He told congressmen this in October of 2010 during the House Judiciary Committee meeting. Dr. Ira Kassan resigned 2 months later, and the NFL later pays out millions. Money means power in government. NFL makes an estimated $7 billion in revenue just from their television deals, hands down, and the NFL games are the most popular programming on television. Last fall, 34 out of 35 most watched TV shows were NFL games. NFL teams give cities free commercialization that drives tourism. When you see games on TV, you see political leaders and club boxes. And that gives these leaders free endorsements and commonality with the fans. You're a fan, I might vote for you. If you are a fan of a team that I like. The price to be paid is the effects the players suffer now and years down the line. The government should step in and mandate higher safety precautions, but they do not want the backlash from the NFL. The NFL teams can leave the city, and then a city will be teamless. Not good. Steps have been taken to increase knowledgeability of concussions in the NFL. The federal government as well as local government could do more to ensure the safety of the NFL players, but mostly for monetary reasons choose not to do so. Hopefully the future brings stricter rules when it comes to concussions for the sake of the current and up-and-coming players. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.